You know that feeling. You've been working hard, hitting those external goals. Maybe you've achieved what many would call success, but there's still this persistent feeling that something is missing.
Hmm.
Like the outward achievements aren't quite matching up with the inner reality.
Yeah.
Maybe your professional life is thriving, but connections at home or understanding yourself deeply feels challenging.
That tension, yeah, that gap between outward success and inner struggle, it's something so many people experience.
Right.
And the material we're exploring today really confronts that head on.
Okay.
It points out that you can climb the ladder of success only to realize that ladder might be leaning against the wrong wall.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. It's easy to get caught up in doing all the right things on the surface.
Totally.
You might focus on improving your communication skills, learning negotiation tactics, maybe adopting a more positive attitude.
All good things, sure.
But sometimes they feel like quick fixes, don't they?
They do. And the source material draws a really sharp contrast here. It describes this focus on techniques, skills, and public image as the personality ethic.
The personality ethic.
Yeah, it's not saying these are bad, but it argues they can become superficial if not built on a solid foundation.
Yeah.
It calls this approach often just lip service to character or like focusing on manipulation or power strategies instead of substance.
So it's like prioritizing the shine over the core structure.
Exactly. And it proposes instead the character ethic.
Caricature ethic.
This material insists that character is foundational and catalytic.
Catalytic. How so?
Well, it makes the powerful point that what we are communicates far more eloquently than anything we say or do.
Wow.
Think about the people you trust most deeply. It's usually not about their smooth talk or their polished techniques, right?
No, it's their substance,
Yes.
their integrity.
Exactly. Their inherent reliability and integrity.
That resonates deeply. There's a quote here from William George Jordan that struck me. The silent, unconscious, unseen influence of a life is the most potent influence there is. It's the constant radiation of what man really is, not what he pretends to be.
It highlights that authenticity has its own profound power.
Yeah.
And the source uses this fantastic analogy to explain why focusing only on superficial techniques for deep change just doesn't work.
Hmm.
It's like trying to cram on a farm.
Oh, the farm analogy. I love how simple yet profound it is.
It is. You can't skip planting in the spring, ignore the crops all summer, and then expect to magically harvest everything in the fall by just cramming.
Right, you can't speed up nature.
Farming follows natural laws. There's a process, a price to pay, a sequence you have to respect.
Mm-hmm.
And this material argues human development and relationships work the same way. You can't shortcut building trust, developing discipline, or nurturing a healthy relationship.
So applying techniques without the character foundation is...
It's like treating a chronic illness with just aspirin and Band-Aids. Doesn't fix the root cause.
Okay, so if we accept that there are no real shortcuts and that character is foundational, where do we even begin to make deeper changes?
Good question.
The source points us towards understanding something called paradigms.
Yes, the power of paradigms is a core concept here. The word comes from the Greek, meaning a model, a theory, a perception, an assumption, or a frame of reference.
So not just what we see, but how we see.
Exactly. It's how we see the world in a deeper sense, how we perceive, how we understand, and how we interpret everything around us.
So it's like the internal maps we carry around.
Precisely, our mental maps. The source explains we have many of these, broadly divided into maps of reality, the way things are, and maps of values, the way things should be.
Okay, reality and values.
And we interpret every experience through these maps, and often we're completely unaware we're even using them.
We just think our view is reality.
We just assume our perspective is reality. Exactly.
Like that classic drawing the material describes the one that looks like two different people depending on how you look at it.
Ah, yes. The image that can be seen as both a young woman and an old woman, it's a perfect illustration.
Yeah, I remember that one.
People often see one image first and genuinely struggle to see the other, even when they know it's there.
Right.
They'll point to details validating their perspective. That's clearly her mouth. Or, no, that's her necklace.
And they're both sincere, looking at the same picture, but seeing completely different things.
Exactly. And this highlights a key insight. Sincere, clear-headed people do see things differently because they're looking through different lenses shaped by their experiences.
Different paradigms.
Different paradigms. The
Mhm.
material makes this point quite directly. When we open our mouths to describe what we see, we in effect describe ourselves, our perceptions, our paradigms.
Wow. So when I'm describing a situation, I'm really revealing more about my own internal wiring than about the objective reality.
Often, yes,
Okay.
much more than we realized.
Okay.
And this paradigm concept is crucial for understanding change. The source argues that if you want only minor incremental changes, you can focus on changing attitudes and behaviors.
That's like hacking at the leaves.
Right. But if you want significant quantum change, you have to work on your basic paradigms, Thoreau's idea of striking at the root.
Quantum change comes from shifting the root perspective, not just trimming the branches.
That's the power of a paradigm shift.
Hmm.
And this leads to the principle-centered paradigm.
Principle-centered, okay.
The material suggests that effectiveness isn't arbitrary, it's based on principles. These are presented as natural laws governing human effectiveness, described as being just as real, just as unchanging, as physical laws like gravity.
Oh, gravity, wow.
Principles are the territory, and our paradigms are just our subjective reality, our attempts to map that territory.
So effectiveness comes from making sure our internal map accurately reflects the external territory of principle.
Yes, aligning our mental maps with these timeless principles makes them accurate and functional.
And that alignment.
That alignment, the source says, can infinitely impact our personal and interpersonal effectiveness, far more than any amount of effort expended on changing our attitudes and behaviors.
So getting the map right before you start navigating makes all the difference.
Huge difference.
Okay, so effectiveness starts with seeing things correctly and aligning with principles. How does the source break down effectiveness itself in a practical sense?
It introduces the vital concept of the PPC balance, beautifully illustrated by the fable of the goose and the golden eggs.
Ah, the goose and the golden eggs. Classic.
Right. Effectiveness is this delicate balance between production, P, the golden eggs, the desired results,
Right, the result.
and production capability,
Yeah.
PC, the goose, the asset or the ability to produce those results.
Ah, the classic trap. Chase only the eggs and you kill the goose.
Exactly. And then you have no eggs either.
True.
Conversely, you can't just nurture the goose without ever getting eggs, or you won't be able to sustain anything.
Okay.
This material applies this balance across different areas of life.
Like physical assets?
Think of a machine. You can demand maximum output P constantly, but if you neglect maintenance PC, you wear out the asset.
Yeah, burnout.
Someone might look great in the short term by boosting numbers, but their successor inherits a sick goose, an asset that can no longer produce effectively.
Ouch. And financial assets.
Your capacity to earn, your skills, your health, that's a primary financial PC.
Okay.
If you don't invest in maintaining and improving that capacity through learning and self-care, you limit your long-term options and can become dependent.
Makes sense. And what about human assets, especially relationships?
This is arguably where the PPC balance is most critical, because people are the source of so much potential.
Right.
In relationships, like a marriage, if you only focus on extracting golden eggs benefits, having your needs met,
Yeah.
you neglect preserving the relationship itself, the goose.
Oh, boy.
The source describes how this leads to behaviors like insensitivity, using control tactics, focusing only on your own needs, justifying yourself, and finding fault in the other person.
Doesn't sound good.
The goose gets sicker day by day, eroding trust and connection.
That paints a vivid picture. You're so focused on the immediate payoff that you destroy the source of the long-term payoff. The parenting example with the daughter's room is similar, isn't it?
It is. You want a clean room, P, the golden egg, but the real long-term goal is developing the child's willingness, responsibility, and discipline. T, the goose, the child's developing character.
Okay, the capability.
Right. If you just nag, bribe, or force immediate compliance, you might get the room clean now, but you damage the relationship and hinder the child's intrinsic motivation and self-management.
That's a bad trade-off.
It is. The source makes the powerful point that borrowing strength builds weakness.
Borrowing strength builds weakness.
Yeah, when you use authority or size to compel someone, you weaken their ability to act responsibly on their own, you weaken your dependence on external force, and you weaken the relationship.
So forcing an outcome today often costs you the capacity to produce positive outcomes collaboratively in the future.
Exactly. It relies on external power instead of nurturing internal growth and trust.
This makes me think if problems in relationships or at work feel like P problems, like just getting the result,
Yeah.
are they also opportunities to build PC, to build the capability?
That's a brilliant connection and a key insight from this material. Yes.
Ah.
It reframes problems, especially in interdependent situations, not just as irritations to be solved or avoided, but as opportunities to actually increase production capability
Okay.
to strengthen the relationship, build trust, or develop better systems.
So don't just fix the symptom, fix the system or relationship.
Exactly. The example of avoiding conflict with an administrative colleague initially caused chronic irritation, a P problem, but confronting it became an opportunity to build a deep relationship and a strong complementary team, increasing PC.
Okay, so effectiveness is this dynamic balance between results and the ability to produce them, applied across all areas. Now, the material traces a path of human growth called the maturity continuum. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. The continuum moves from dependence to independence to interdependence.
Dependence sounds like the beginning, right? Relying on others.
Yes, it's relying on others for thinking, for self-reliance, for emotional validation. Think, you take care of me. It's the natural state of infancy and early childhood.
Got it. Then independence is breaking free and standing on your own, the I.
Exactly. It's being physically self-reliant, thinking your own thoughts mentally, being inner-directed emotionally. Your sense of worth comes from within, not solely from others' opinions.
That sounds like a good goal.
It is. This material calls independence a worthy, liberating goal.
But it's not the end point of development.
This is a crucial distinction. The source stresses that life is inherently interdependent.
Interdependent, okay.
We live and work with others. So while independence is necessary, independent thinking alone is not suited to interdependent reality.
Right, you can't just do everything yourself.
Trying to achieve maximum effectiveness in life solely through independence is described as like trying to play tennis with a golf club. Okay, wrong tool for the job. Right. Independent people might be great individual producers, but they won't be good leaders or team players if they lack the maturity for interdependence.
Because they haven't developed the right internal framework for collaborating effectively, for the we.
Precisely. Interdependence is a far more mature, more advanced concept. Physically, you're capable, but you understand that working together achieves far more than you could alone.
The we thinking.
Emotionally, you have self-worth, but also recognize the fundamental human need to give and receive love. Intellectually, you value and need others' best thinking to solve complex problems.
Right.
It's about accessing the vast resources and potential of other human beings through meaningful interaction.
So independence is the crucial step away from dependence, but interdependence is the higher, more effective state for dealing with the real world.
Yes, and the material makes the powerful point that interdependence is a choice that only independent people can make.
Only independent people can choose it. Why?
Because dependent people don't have the character to do it. They don't own enough of themselves to genuinely choose interdependence over clinging or reacting. You need that inner strength first.
Ah, that makes sense. And this continuum maps perfectly onto the 7 habits, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Habits 1, 2, and 3 are called the private victories.
Private victories.
They represent the journey from dependence to independence, building that essential self-mastery and character strength.
Gotta win inside first.
The material is emphatic. Private victories precede public victories. You simply cannot invert this process. You have to cultivate yourself first from the inside out, just like you have to plant before you can harvest.
Okay, let's dig into those private victories, building that inner strength. Habit 1, be proactive. What's the fundamental idea behind that?
The core idea is responsibility, but broken down into responsibility.
Responsibility.
Yeah, the ability to choose your response. It's not just about being assertive or taking initiative, though that's part of it. It's about recognizing the fundamental human freedom that exists between any stimulus and your response. That space.
And this insight is deeply tied to Viktor Frankl's experience.
Yes. The source draws heavily on Frankl's horrific experiences in the Nazi death camps.
Yeah.
In the face of unimaginable suffering and having everything stripped away, he discovered that the one thing his captors could not take was his freedom to choose his attitude, his response.
Wow.
That last of the human freedoms. It's a powerful example of finding internal freedom, even when external circumstances are utterly controlled.
That's incredible, finding that space even there. So reactive people are defined by their circumstances, but proactive people aren't.
Pretty much. Reactive people are driven by external conditions. The social weather, how others treat them, their mood, their environment. Things happen to them.
Right.
Proactive people, the source explains, carry their own weather. They are driven by values and can choose their response based on those values, even if they have an impulse to react otherwise.
Carry their own weather. I like that. And the material says we have these unique human endowments that give us this capacity for choice.
Right. 4 of them. Self-awareness, the ability to think about our own thoughts and behaviors.
Okay.
Imagination, the ability to create in our minds beyond our current reality.
Hmm.
Conscience, our inner sense of right and wrong connected to principles.
Right.
And independent will, the ability to act based on our self-awareness, conscience, and imagination, free from being dictated solely by external forces or impulses.
So we can choose.
We can. When we feel our lives are just a product of our conditioning, it's because we've chosen, maybe unconsciously, to empower those things to control us instead of using these endowments.
And the language we use actually reflects this paradigm. Reactive language sounds like, I have to, I can't, if only.
Precisely. That kind of language comes from a paradigm of determinism, putting the blame or cause outside of ourselves. It takes power away from you.
Yep.
I have to go to the tennis trip is a classic example. The student feels compelled, but really, they're choosing the consequence of staying on the team over something else.
Ah, okay.
Proactive language is empowering. I choose, I prefer, I will. It reflects owning your choices.
This is also where the circle of concern versus circle of influence comes in.
It's a key visualization for habit 1.
Yeah.
Really helpful. Reactive people focus their energy on their circle of concern.
Things they can't control.
Exactly. Things they have no control over.
Uh-huh.
The past, other people's behavior, government policies, the weather. This focus breeds feelings of helplessness and blame.
Yeah, sounds draining.
Proactive people focus on their circle of influence, the things they can control or influence.
Which is primarily their own response and actions.
Yes, their own behavior is direct control.
Yeah.
It also includes methods of influence over others, which is indirect control. And crucially, how they choose to see or respond to problems they have no control over. That's the third area of influence. The first step in solving any problem, the source states, is always within your circle of influence.
Always starts with you. And I love that focusing on your circle of influence actually makes it bigger over time.
It absolutely does. The
Yeah.
example of the employee with the dictatorial boss is perfect.
Right.
Instead of complaining about the boss, circle of concern, he focused on his own behavior, providing analysis, recommendations, anticipating needs, circle of influence.
Okay.
Over time, the boss started relying on him, asking his opinion, and his influence grew dramatically, changing the dynamic between them.
So instead of waiting for the world or other people to change, you change your response. And that's where the power is. And even past mistakes, you can't change what happened, but you can control your response now to the consequences.
That's the essence. Learn from it, don't live in it. The source suggests a 30-day test. Yeah, just practice being proactive in everyday irritations. Traffic, a rude comment, a child's disobedience. It's in these small moments that you build the proactive muscle.
Okay, makes sense.
Keeping commitments to yourself, even small ones, is also key to building that capacity.
Yeah.
Builds integrity with yourself.
Okay, that sets a powerful foundation. Moving on to habit 2, begin with the end in mind. What's this about for personal leadership?
Habit 2 is all about personal leadership, deciding what are the right things I want to accomplish. It's the first creation.
The mental creation.
Exactly. It's based on the principle that everything is created twice. First, mentally, then physically. Like building a home, you create the detailed blueprint in your mind or on paper before you ever lay a foundation or hammer a nail.
So the mental creation has to happen first. And the most fundamental way to apply this is by starting with the image of your funeral. That sounds intense.
It is intense, but it's a potent exercise suggested by the source. Imagine your own funeral, who is there, and what would you want them to say about you? About your character, your contributions, how you impacted their lives. This visualization is designed to help you strip away the noise and clarify what truly matters most to you at the deepest level.
That's incredibly grounding. It helps make sure that whatever you're doing day to day actually contributes to that ultimate vision.
Precisely. It provides a frame of reference for everything else. Every decision, every activity can be measured against that ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
As the source quotes, upon a mutual friend's death, one man asked, how much did he leave? And the friend responded, he left it all.
Oh.
Keeping the end in mind gives perspective on what you're truly building.
The material also discusses rescripting. What does that mean in this context?
We often live by inherited scripts or paradigms, messages we absorb from our family, society, our experiences, things we just picked up.
Right.
This material argues that using our human endowments, self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent, we can consciously rescript ourselves.
We can rewrite the script.
Yes. We can identify those ineffective paradigms and actively change them to align with our deeper values and vision.
Like Anwar Sadat's story.
A remarkable example. He was deeply scripted by generations of hatred towards Israel. It was ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he used his endowments to challenge that fundamental paradigm, to see the possibility of peace. He worked within his circle of influence, and that internal rescripting enabled him to pursue peace treaties that changed the course of history for millions.
So we're not passive recipients of our conditioning. We can actively rewrite our own internal code.
It's about choosing to live from your imagination and conscience, connected to your potential, rather than being limited by your memory and past experiences.
And the source explores different centers people build their lives around. What are some of those?
It lists many common ones: spouse, family, money, work, possession, pleasure, friend-enemy, church, self. And it delves into the vulnerabilities of each of these as a primary center.
Vulnerabilities, even things like family or spouse, those sound like good things to be centered on.
They are good things. But if they are the sole center of your security, guidance, wisdom, and power, they become unstable foundations.
How so?
Well, a spouse-centered person's security is constantly fluctuating based on their spouse's moods or the state of the relationship.
Ah, okay.
A family-centered person might ironically neglect the individual needs or character development necessary for long-term family strength because they're too focused on just keeping the unit together now.
Right.
Money or work centers can lead to sacrificing health, relationships, and integrity, which becomes starkly clear in a crisis.
Yeah, seen that happen.
Being centered on friends' enemies means your worth is tied to external opinions or comparisons. A church center can become focused on appearance rather than substance.
And self-centered.
And self-centeredness, like the Dead Sea, receives everything but gives nothing back, leading to stagnation. No growth.
So these centers can distort your perception and make you vulnerable to external shifts.
Exactly. The examples in the material, like the professor whose entire perspective was warped by focusing on one administrator's weakness, or the father who chose the circus trip with his kids over a work call because his value was family, not work. They illustrate how your center dictates your decisions and your perception of reality.
What's the alternative, the more stable center?
The principle-centered paradigm. Building your life around timeless, unchanging principles like fairness, integrity, human dignity, service, quality, potential, growth, creates a stable center.
Okay.
It's a fixed point that puts all other centers in perspective. Principles don't react to external circumstances or internal moods. They just are.
It sounds like using a compass that always points true north, no matter the weather or the terrain.
That's it. That's a great way to put it. It provides unchanging security, reliable guidance, inherent wisdom, and the power that comes from acting on principles. It leads to a proactive life focused on learning and contribution. The material shows how different centers would lead to vastly different responses in a situation like being asked to work late versus having plans based on your values.
Habit 2 also involves using a different part of your brain, doesn't it? The creative side.
It strongly emphasizes the right brain capacity: imagination, conscience, creativity, visualization.
Okay.
While our world often prioritizes left brain logic and analysis, which is crucial for management, personal leadership, habit 2, requires developing those right brain muscles.
So leading is right brain, managing is left brain.
Generally speaking, yes, you need both, but leadership requires that vision, that imagination.
And visualization and affirmations are tools for this, to strengthen that muscle.
They are powerful tools for the first creation, the mental one. Visualizing moments like your funeral or significant anniversaries helps you connect with what's important.
Okay.
Affirmations, when done correctly, the source says personal, positive, present tense, visual, and emotional, can help you internalize new, principle-centered scripts.
Right.
The example of the parent who overreacts shows how visualization and affirmation can help you rehearse a better, more principle-aligned response internally before you face the situation.
Like mental practice.
Exactly. Peak performers, like athletes, use this constantly. They create an internal comfort zone by mentally rehearsing success, seeing and feeling it before they do it.
And defining roles and goals comes after clarifying your mission. It flows from that.
Yes, identifying your key roles in life, parent, spouse, leader, friend, individual, etc., and setting long-term goals within those roles gives structure and direction, flowing directly from your core mission statement.
Like a personal or family constitution.
Exactly. Or even an organizational mission statement. The source used the example of a hotel where everyone, from the front desk to maintenance, was involved in creating the mission statement.
Everyone. Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't just handed down. It became the hub of a great wheel, the guiding criterion for every decision, not just a plaque on the wall.
That makes it real.
And the process of creating a family mission statement is often as valuable as the statement itself because it builds the PC.
The capability.
Right. It gets people talking and aligning on what truly matters to them as a unit, builds understanding and buy-in.
That hotel example really highlights the power of aligning an entire organization around a shared purpose.
Okay, we've covered proactivity, habit 1, and beginning with the end in mind, habit 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the third private victory, put first things first.
Habit 3 is the physical creation, the execution, the second creation.
Mm-hmm.
If habit 1 is I am the creator, and habit 2 is the mental creation, the blueprint, habit 3 is the actual building. It's about managing yourself moment by moment to live congruently with your principles, values, and vision.
So leadership, habit 2, is figuring out the right things, and management, habit 3, is actually doing them efficiently, organizing your time.
Precisely. Leadership must come first, ensuring you're climbing the right wall in the right jungle. Management is then necessary to determine the quality and efficiency of your progress. You got to manage from the left, lead from the right.
This is where the time management matrix fits in, the 4 quadrants.
The famous 4 quadrants. Yep. Quadrant was urgent and important. Crises, pressing problems, deadlines. Living here means you're a crisis manager, constantly putting out fires. It's stressful.
Very. Quadrant third is urgent, but not important. Interruptions, some emails, other people's urgent requests that aren't important to you. These feel important because they're noisy and demand immediate attention.
The tyranny of the urgent.
Exactly. Quadrant 3 is not urgent and not important. Time wasters, busy work, excessive escape activities. We all dip in here sometimes, but living here is ineffective.
Right. And the key to effectiveness is focusing on quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2 is not urgent, but important. Prevention, relationship building, long-term planning, exercise, learning, empowerment, recreation, preparation activities that build your PC.
The capability builder.
Yes. This is where the heart of effective management resides. But because Q2 activities aren't urgent, they require initiative and proactivity, habit 1, to prioritize them.
You have to make time for them.
You do. Without a clear vision of what's truly important, habit 2, you're easily pulled into the demands of the urgent quadrants of first and 3. Q2 gets squeezed out.
So effective self-management is about consciously choosing to spend more time in quadrant 2, planning for it.
It is. And that takes courage. It requires saying no to other demands, often things that are good or seem important because they aren't the best things.
Saying no is hard.
It is, unless you have a bigger yes burning inside your mission, your values from habit 2. That gives you the power to politely decline the less important. You're always saying no to something. Make sure it's not the quadrant 2 activities that truly matter.
The source talks about the evolution of time management, culminating in the 4th generation. What does that look like?
It's principle-centered and firmly rooted in quadrant 2.
Okay.
Unlike earlier, more mechanical models that might prioritize efficiency over people, the 4th generation recognizes that people are more important than things.
That's key.
It encourages centering on principles, clarifying purposes, creating balance by organizing your week around your roles and goals, using a compass, values, direction, instead of just a rigid roadmap, a minute-by-minute schedule. It's flexible and principle-driven.
A compass, not just a clock. Delegation is also a big part of managing effectively, and the source contrasts Gopher versus stewardship delegation.
A crucial distinction. Gopher delegations is about directing methods and closely supervising, essentially telling someone exactly how to do every single step. Go for this, go for that.
Micromanaging.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It keeps you involved in the weeds and severely limits what you can leverage. The source uses the example of directing his wife's photography step by step. It wasn't effective or empowering.
Right. And stewardship delegation is the alternative.
Yes, it's based on trust and recognizing the other person's ability to be proactive and responsible. It focuses on results rather than methods.
Okay.
You spend more time upfront clarifying, but you empower the other person. You give them the stewardship.
With those 5 key areas you mentioned earlier, it sounds like for win-win too.
Exactly the same 5. A clear mutual understanding of desired results, what needs to be done, the what and why, guidelines, the boundaries, principles, rules, resources, what's available to help, accountability, how and when results will be evaluated, and importantly, consequences, what naturally or logically happens based on achieving or not achieving the results.
Consequences agreed up front.
Agreed upon up front. Logical consequences, not arbitrary punishments. The example of teaching his son to clean the yard through stewardship delegation, though requiring patience initially, built the son's self-management, PC, and resulted in a better outcome than constant supervision.
So building trust and empowering others through clear agreements is key.
Trust is the highest form of human motivation. It brings out people's best, but it requires an investment of time and patience to train and develop them to be worthy of that trust.
And aligning reward systems ties directly into this, making sure the consequences match the desired outcome.
Critically important. The source makes it clear. You basically get what you reward. If your organizational systems or even family dynamics reward a win-lose or go-for approach, that's what you'll see, no matter what you say the values are.
Actions speak louder.
Always. The real estate company example shows how changing the compensation system so managers benefited when salespeople succeeded created a true win-win reward system that aligned incentives and solved deep-seated performance issues overnight.
Wow, overnight. Okay. That covers the private victories, building that foundation of self-mastery to move from dependence to independence.
Foundation.
Now, how do we take that inner strength and apply it to building effective relationships and working with others? That's the public victories, right?
Exactly, the public victories. Habits 4, 5, and 6. But the private victory is absolutely necessary groundwork. You can't have truly effective interdependent relationships without having first established a level of independence.
Got to have your own house in order first.
Right. And this material sets the stage for the public victories with the powerful metaphor of the emotional bank account, EBA.
The EBA,
Right.
like the trust account in a relationship.
Exactly. It's the trust and security you have in any relationship with a spouse, child, colleague, customer. It's a feeling of safety you have with another person.
Okay.
Deposits are made through kindness, integrity, keeping commitments, clarifying expectations, showing loyalty, things that build trust.
And withdrawals.
Withdrawals happen when you are unkind, break promises, violate trust, or duplicitous, show disrespect.
So a high EBA means?
A high EBA means there's a reservoir of trust that allows for open communication and handling conflict smoothly. Mistakes are forgiven more easily.
And a low EBA?
A low EBA means interactions are strained, communication is guarded, conflict is difficult, everything feels like walking on eggshells.
So keeping a commitment is a big deposit, and breaking one is a major withdrawal.
A huge withdrawal. Breaking a promise severely erodes faith in future promises. The source advises being extremely careful about making commitments. And if you absolutely must break one, explaining fully and seeking to be released, don't just blow it off.
What about clarifying expectations? You mentioned that helps.
This is called out as the root of almost all relationship difficulties. Seriously.
Really?
Conflicting or ambiguous expectations around roles, goals, or responsibilities lead to misunderstanding and withdrawals. This happens in marriages, at work, everywhere. Implicit expectations that aren't discussed up front cause so many problems.
So having the courage to get those expectations out on the table early is a key deposit, even if it feels awkward.
It takes courage initially. Yeah, it can feel awkward, but it saves immense time and pain later trying to resolve misunderstandings. Putting expectations out on the table openly is a major EBA deposit. Clarity builds trust.
Loyalty to the absent is another interesting deposit mention. What's that about?
It's a powerful way to build integrity and trust. When you defend someone who isn't present or refuse to participate in negative talk about them, you build trust with the people who are present.
How does that work?
They know you'll do the same for them when they aren't there. It shows integrity. The opposite, criticizing or gossiping about someone absent, is seen as duplicity and severely erodes trust. People wonder what you say about them.
That makes sense. And conditional love damages the EBA too. Like, I'll love you if.
Yes, attaching strings or making your acceptance conditional encourages counterdependence in others, which is just another reactive form of dependence, not true independence or interdependence. Unconditional love, support, and belief are huge deposits, especially with children.
So the EBA is the foundation for effective interdependence. Let's dive into the first public victory. Habit 4. Think win-win.
Win-win. It's a frame of mind and heart that seeks mutual benefit in all human interaction.
Mutual benefit.
Okay. The solution is one that is mutually beneficial and satisfying to everyone involved. It sees life as a cooperative arena, not purely competitive, and it's based on principles, not just power or position.
And the paradigm behind it.
The underlying paradigm is an abundance mentality. The belief that there is plenty for everyone, plenty of success, recognition, joy.
Not your gain is my loss, or if I win, you lose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It rejects that zero-sum thinking. the scarcity mentality. And a crucial part of the win-win paradigm is the option of win-win or no deal.
What does no deal mean? Just walk away.
It means if, after genuine effort, you cannot find a solution that is truly mutually beneficial and satisfying, you simply agree not to make a deal right now.
Ah.
The source describes this as a liberating option. You don't have to push for your way, win-lose, or give in, lose-win.
Huh.
You can be open, explore issues deeply, knowing that if you can't find a win-win, walking away respectfully is better than an outcome that breeds resentment or undermines future interaction.
That takes pressure off.
It really does. The performance group example shows us they couldn't agree, so no deal was the best option to preserve the relationship for the future.
That requires a balance of courage and consideration, doesn't it? Standing your ground, but also caring about the other side.
Yes, those are the two core dimensions. Courage is your concern for your own results and convictions. Consideration is your concern for the relationship and the other person's perspective. Balancing high courage with high consideration is the path to win-win.
And the scarcity mentality versus abundance mentality is key here. You mentioned that.
Absolutely foundational.
Yeah.
Win-win is almost impossible from a scarcity mentality, which sees life as a finite pie.
Right.
That leads to comparison, competition, wanting others to fail or be limited so you can succeed. Abundance mentality, the belief that there's plenty of success and resources to go around, is the soil from which win-win thinking grows naturally.
And implementing WIN involves clarifying those same 5 areas we saw in stewardship delegation. Results, guidelines.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly the same 5, especially for any win-win agreement in formal or business settings or even complex family agreements. Desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences.
Okay.
Again, the consequences should be natural or logical outcomes tied to performance, agreed upon up front, like in the daughter's car agreement example. This fosters self-supervision and responsibility.
And reinforcing the reward system to support win-win, like the real estate company example, seems vital, making sure the system encourages cooperation.
It is. Systems must align with the stated goals and values. If you say you want win-win but reward internal competition or hoarding resources, you'll get competition and hoarding. Aligning the system encourages win-win behavior.
Okay, habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Yeah.
This seems like the heart of communication in interdependent relationships, like really critical.
It absolutely is. It's based on the universal principle of diagnosis before prescription.
Diagnosis before prescription.
You wouldn't go to a doctor who prescribes treatment without first examining you.
Definitely not.
It's the same whether you're a salesperson, an engineer, a teacher, or a parent. You must deeply understand the situation, the person, the problem, before you try to solve it or offer your own perspective. The source states it simply. Good judgment comes from understanding. Judging first prevents understanding.
But our natural inclination is to listen to reply, right? To jump in with advice, to filter everything through our own experience.
That's our default. We listen from our autobiography, ready to jump in with advice. You should do this. Evaluation. That's wrong. Probing. Why did you do that? Or interpreting what you really mean is.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. The father-son example about the frustrated teenager is a perfect, painful illustration. The father means well, but he's listening autobiographically, offering solutions before he's truly heard the depth of his son's feelings and dilemma. He's prescribing before diagnosing.
So how do you break that pattern? How do you really listen?
Through empathic listening. This means listening with the sole intent to understand the other person's frame of reference, to see the world as they see it, to understand their feelings and the meaning they put on things, both emotionally and intellectually.
Okay, seeing it from their shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It requires vulnerability and your own inner security from habits 1, 2, 3, because you have to suspend your own agenda for a moment.
And there's a skill progression to it. It's not just nodding along.
No, it's more than just acknowledging. It progresses from mimicking words, just repeating, to rephrasing content, saying it in your own words, to reflecting feeling, naming the emotion you hear.
Okay.
And the most effective level is combining rephrasing content and reflecting feeling, stage 4. So if I understand correctly, you're saying content and you feel feeling about that.
That sounds powerful.
It is. This 4th stage is transformative. It gives the other person psychological air, like oxygen.
Psychological air.
Yeah. It helps them open up layers of feeling and meaning, builds the EBA tremendously, and crucially, creates a transformational opportunity.
A transformational opportunity. What happens there?
You move from being adversaries, looking at each other across a problem, to sitting side by side, looking at the problem together.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Exactly. When the other person feels truly understood, The defensiveness drops, and they become open to your perspective and influence. The son, in the example, once truly heard, opens up about his fears of failing and his underlying struggle, and then he's ready to genuinely hear his father's advice.
So seeking to understand first is not just good for the other person, it's essential for you to get accurate information and create a space for influence.
Absolutely. It saves immense time and effort correcting misunderstandings down the line.
Right.
The labor negotiation example is powerful here.
What happened there?
Simply by dedicating time to truly listen empathically to the other side's deep concerns, the entire atmosphere shifted from hostile and low trust to fertile ground for synergy. They solved the problem quickly after that.
Wow. And the ancient concepts of ethos, pathos, and logos tie into this. Character, emotion, logic.
They provide a brilliant framework for seeking to be understood effectively after you've understood. Ethos is your personal credibility, the trust you've built, your EBA. That comes first.
Okay, trust first.
Pathos is the empathic part, aligning with the other person's feelings, showing you understand them. That comes second.
Emotion, empathy.
Logos is logic, reason, the actual content of your ideas. That comes third.
Logic last. That seems counterintuitive.
But think about it. When you seek to be understood, the order matters immensely. Ethos first, they trust you. Then pathos, they feel understood by you. Then logos, they're open to your logic. Without ethos and pathos, your logos, no matter how brilliant, is unlikely to land.
Yeah.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's powerful. Ethos, pesos, logos, in that order. And this habit is entirely within your circle of influence, isn't it? You can always choose to listen.
That's one of its great powers. You can always choose to seek first to understand, regardless of how the other person is communicating. Doing so builds your influence, gets you accurate information, and improves the relationship over time.
Which brings us to the capstone of the public victories. Habit 6, synergize. What does synergy look like in action? Sounds kind of corporate buzzwordy sometimes.
It can sound that way,
Hmm.
but the concept here is profound. Synergy is creative cooperation. It's the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
1 + 1 will lose 3 or more.
Right. It's finding third alternatives
Right.
that are better than either original proposal. It's not just compromise where everyone loses something.
Yep.
The husband and wife in the fishing trip example don't just compromise, half conference, half fishing, leaving both feeling deprived. By valuing each other's deeper needs through habits 4 and 5, they find a synergistic solution.
What was it?
Scheduling a dedicated family fishing trip later and enjoying other activities together, now a solution that was better and more fulfilling for both than their initial positions, or a simple compromise.
Synergistic communication sounds like being truly open to new possibilities, not just defending your own idea.
It is. It's about opening your mind, heart, and expressions to explore new options, trusting that by working together, you can find an outcome that is significantly better than what any one person could devise alone. The mutual learning that happens in synergistic communication creates incredible energy and momentum.
But achieving synergy requires more than just wanting it, right? You have to overcome barriers like ego or defensiveness.
Yes, it requires a high EBA trust and the courage to be authentic, habit 4 balance, to express your own ideas and feelings while remaining open to others, and to confront difficult truths if necessary. Defensive scripting and low trust are major barriers to synergy.
So the environment created by habits 4, win-win, and 5, seek first to understand, is essential for habit 6. They build up to it.
Absolutely. A foundation of trust, high EBA, a commitment to mutual benefit, win-win, and a willingness to deeply understand each other, seek first to understand, create the ideal conditions for synergy to flourish.
Makes sense.
The executive education meeting example showed this practicing 4, 5, and 6 together, unleashed collective creative energy, and led to entirely new insights into their challenge. Insights no one had walking in.
And valuing differences is crucial for synergy. Not just tolerating them, but valuing them.
Essential. Synergy comes from leveraging differences, not minimizing them or trying to make everyone the same. Different paradigms, different perspectives, different strengths. These aren't obstacles. They are resources that add to the pool of knowledge and possibility.
Like the young woman picture again.
Exactly. Both perspectives are valid, and synergy comes from valuing both to see the whole picture. The duck school analogy humorously points out how ineffective it is to try and make everyone conform to the same mold. Synergy thrives on unique strengths. Life isn't always either. Value differences to find those creative third alternatives.
So it's not about compromise, which is often 1 + 1, 1.5, where both sides give up something. It's about leveraging differences to find 1 + 1 or more and 8 or more.
That's the power. That's the magic of synergy. It also involves addressing the restraining forces.
Restraining forces.
Things like low trust, poor communication, negative attitudes, old habits that work against driving forces towards positive change. Reducing those restraining forces, often through applying habits 4 and 5, is key to unleashing synergy, as seen in the lawyer negotiation and land developer examples. Bad communication holds things back.
So, synergy is the ultimate public victory, bringing together the best of everyone involved. We've covered the private victories, building independence, and the public victories, building interdependence. How do we sustain all of this? It sounds like a lot to keep up.
It is a continuous process. And that's habit 7, sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw. Okay. Hi.
This is the habit that makes all the others possible. It's your personal PC. It's about preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, which is you, by renewing yourself regularly in 4 fundamental dimensions.
The 4 dimensions of our nature. What are they?
Yes, physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. You need balance across all 4.
Can you tell us about each? Physical first.
Physical renewal is caring for your body, exercising for endurance, flexibility, and strength, eating well, getting enough rest. The source notes the paradox of building muscle through stress and recovery. Importantly, consistent physical exercise is a powerful way to practice habit 1, proactivity, acting on your values, health. Rather than reacting to inertia or discomfort, it builds self-esteem and confidence too.
Spiritual. Is that religious?
Not necessarily religious, though it can be. Spiritual renewal is about connecting with your core, your center, your values, your purpose. It's personal leadership, habit 2, applied to your inner life.
Okay.
It draws on sources of inspiration and timeless truths, prayer, meditation, scripture, spending time in nature, great music, meaningful literature, things that lift you up. It connects you to meaning, often through service and contribution. The doctor's prescription story, spending time in nature, reflecting on motives. If one's motives are wrong, nothing can be right. Writing down worries and letting them go is a beautiful illustration of spiritual renewal, finding that inner peace.
Mental. Keeping the mind sharp.
Mental renewal is continuous learning and education, expanding your mind, also tied to habit 2. Reading broadly, writing, planning, visualization.
Okay.
The source highlights that this requires habit 3, self-management, particularly in being disciplined and discriminating about what you expose your mind to, like being selective with television or other media inputs. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
True. And social emotional. Is that just being nice to people?
It's deeper than just being nice, though. That's part of it. This dimension is renewing the public victory habits, 4, 5, 6, in your relationships. It involves building connections, making emotional bank account deposits, practicing empathy, seeking synergy. It involves human relations, service, and contribution. The source emphasizes that service, helping others, provides a deep sense of intrinsic security that's independent of external validation.
Intrinsic security.
Yeah. It also includes scripting others, positively, actively, using your abundance mentality to see the potential in others, affirm their proactive nature and value, which builds them up without diminishing you, and strengthens relationships, believing in people.
So keeping all 4 dimensions sharp is critical for overall effectiveness. You can't just focus on one.
Absolutely. Neglecting any one dimension creates drag and limits effectiveness in all others. You become unbalanced. The source mentions that organizations need this balance too.
Organizations too.
Yeah, renewal and economic, physical, talent development, mental, human relations integrity, social emotional, and purpose contribution, spiritual dimensions, to stay healthy and synergistic, not stagnate.
And there's a key practice mentioned for developing all 7 habits, like a daily thing.
Yes, the source suggests a minimum of 1 hour a day dedicated to physical, spiritual, and mental renewal, a daily private victory.
An hour a day.
At least. This is entirely within your circle of influence, habit 1, focused on important Q2 activities, habit 3, and tied to your core values purpose, habit 2. It's planned personal PC time.
And this helps with the other habits.
This consistent personal renewal builds that deep intrinsic security that is the absolute foundation for effectively practicing the interdependent habits, 4, 5, 6, with courage and consideration. There's no shortcut. Growth really does follow the law of the harvest, consistent investment.
This daily investment also sounds like it would expand that crucial space between stimulus and response we talked about in habit 1, give you more control.
It absolutely does. Spiritual and mental renewal particularly enhance your self-awareness and independent will, allowing you to consciously choose a principle-based response instead of being pulled by impulses or conditioning. you gain perspective.
And Sandra's Frigidaire story, where they talked for an hour or two every single day for a year, that's an incredible example of dedicated PC investment in the social emotional dimension, sharpening the saw of their relationship.
A powerful one. It wasn't easy, I'm sure, but it built a level of understanding and trust that allowed them to work through profoundly challenging, deeply rooted issues. It shows the immense return on investing in relationship PC with patience and reverence, consistent effort over time.
It truly does cycle back, doesn't it? The private victories build the inner capacity, the public victories build effective relationships and collaboration, and sharpening the saw sustains your ability to live out all the habits.
It's an upward spiral of growth.
It's an inside-out journey, starting with yourself.
That's the profound invitation of this material. It's not about adopting techniques or quick fixes, but about transforming your character, your paradigms, to live a life aligned with principles. That's where lasting effectiveness and fulfillment come from.
And that's not just fascinating information. It's an opportunity for you listening now to look at these principles and your own life with fresh eyes.
An opportunity for reflection and perhaps a shift in focus, a chance to examine your own maps.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the insights from the material you shared, here's a question to carry with you. Given how powerful paradigms are in shaping our reality, where might you be looking at a situation, a relationship, a challenge, even yourself, not as it truly is, but as your conditioning has taught you to see it?
Good question.
What might become possible if you experimented with shifting that lens, even just slightly?